What's up, guys? It's Dave Marshall with the RC Air Marshall YouTube channel, and today we're here with the beautiful Dynam Waco V2. What makes this a V2? We're going to talk about that towards the end of the video after the flight. We're going to go ahead and head to the field, but before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on so you don't miss any other videos from the RC Air Marshall YouTube channel. And also, stick around to the end of the video because we've got a very special offer from BitGo celebrating the 1-year anniversary and 2,000 subscriber milestone of the channel. So be sure to stick around for that. All right. So this is the first flight, maiden flight of the Dynam Waco V2. This is going to be mostly trimming the aircraft. And as you saw there in the very beginning, I had a little bit of trouble, as I get used to, just how much rudder I need to apply as the tail starts to fly. Now, I'll tell you, I have a little bit of trouble getting the trim just right because there's some issues with the rudder out of the box. And I don't know if it's just limited to this one model or if it's something that's seen on all the models of the Waco, and we'll talk about that when we go back to the bench here in a little bit. So at this point, I'm flying in low rates, and you'll hear the radio call outs as I shift from low rates to high rates, and you can hear me, adjusting the trim there. But I'm having to do quite a bit of trim adjusting, both in the rudder and the aileron, to get the plane to fly right. And there we go. I just enabled the gyro for the first time. Usually when I go up and do my trims, I like to do that with the gyro turned off. In this particular case, I am running the FrSky S8R gyro receiver, and I'm running it with my Radiomaster TX16 OpenTX radio.
Mid-rates, high rates.
And then we just turned it over to high rates. At this point, I'm really comfortable with how the airplane is flying. I've got the trim all good to go, and that's when I'll go ahead and fire up the stabilizer.
Canopy's coming off.
Oh no, you got a battery?
No, the canopy's coming off.
Now, you can hear James from Motion RC in the background. Now, the approach was no good there, so I went ahead and goosed it and, started lifting up. Had a few crazy maneuvers there, but everything was fine. It's just difficult to set up an approach when you're on that side of the field.
3 minutes.
So we'll call that a crazy go-around. So we went ahead and brought it down here because the canopy was coming off, or the battery cover. You can kind of see it there. The battery cover was coming off of the plane.
The canopy was coming off?
Yeah.
But we don't let that kind of stuff slow us down. The second takeoff, as you can see, we still had about 3 minutes left on the battery. So we went ahead and took her back up to run the battery out the rest of the way. At this point, I'm, much more comfortable with how the plane flies. We're giving it some throttle here, really seeing what she can do, and doing some maneuvers, some rolls, some loops. Here's a big old gasser. So with the battery hatch, we'll discuss that in the, when we come back to the bench and talk about the plane. As you can see here, the plane just handles beautifully. I've got her in high rates here, and she'll do anything you want. And with this new motor that comes in the V2 version of the Waco that we'll discuss after the flight video, I mean, this thing's got a lot of speed. It's got plenty of power to go vertical. It's a great flying airplane. And a great looking airplane. The Waco is one of my favorite planes. I prefer the red, but the yellow is very easy to see in the air, and it just flies great.
30 seconds.
Landing right, left.
Yep, so we're setting up our landing approach here. And now that it's not like an emergency to get her down, I've got some more time to set up that approach. Little bounce, slide her right in, and get her onto the taxiway. So let's head to the bench and talk about the airplane. All right, guys, so you were able to see the Dynam Waco V2 flying. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, we're going to talk about what makes this a V2. Before we get to that, though, I wanted to point out that we didn't do a build video for the Waco. And the reason that we didn't do a build video, it's pretty straightforward. It's been covered before. The airframe's been out for a while, so there's plenty of build videos out there on some of the intricacies that are the Waco. Now, I did specifically have an issue with the rudder. There's a little bend in the rudder. It's kind of warped. So I had to add quite a bit of right trim to the rudder to get it to start flying straight, and you were kind of able to see that in the flight video where it took a little while to get everything trimmed out. I had to add some rudder, and I had to add a little bit of aileron to kind of get everything flying nice and straight. But it's not so much that it can't be trimmed out. I was able to trim it out, and after I got it trimmed out, everything started working great, and it flew awesome. The paint on Dynam models, I mean, they do a decent job painting it, but sometimes things don't line up quite right. And specifically here on the top of the wing panel, the two wing halves on the upper wing section, the black lines did not match up, so I taped that off and repainted the front of the wings leading edge so I could get that black line to match up. And I also added a RC Air Marshal decal to the wing. On all of the Dynam models that I build, the Dynam paint is a little bit chalky. It's an acrylic, but it's a little chalky. So it gives a very flat and dull appearance. And most of the Wacos that I've seen have a real shiny appearance. So I went ahead and did several coats of the Minwax polyacrylic gloss on the model, and it really makes it pop. It makes it stand out. Now, what makes this a V2? So the power system in the Waco, by default, or the original Waco, was a 3720 650 kV motor. And that was with a 40 amp ESC. In the Waco V2, they've upgraded the ESC to 50 amps and gone with the 3720 800 kV motors. So the Dynam Waco, it performs great even in its original variant, but with that new power plant that they put in here with the V2 model, it really gives it that bit of extra oomph to make it perform really well, especially in aerobatic and scale type of flying. So the prop on the Waco V2 is the same as it was originally. It's a 12/6 two-blade prop that was actually balanced really well. I did have to take off a little bit of material to get the prop to balance right, and that's something that I always recommend, is balancing your props on any propeller-driven airplane. One other thing to address regarding the build is in the cowling, that plastic area, you know, kind of that mock radial engine, it doesn't have, it's solid in there, right? So you don't have any holes to provide airflow into the fuselage or to cool that motor. So what I did is I just trimmed the areas between each of the cylinders, and that allowed some space down here towards the bottom to allow some air to get up into that fuselage. And I painted that silver back behind there to give a little better scale appearance. So overall, I'm real happy with the flight performance as well as the build of the Dynam Waco V2. It does have, you know, typical with Dynam, it does have your foam hinges. So, you know, just be sure to keep an eye on those hinges over time. The foam hinges are not going to last forever, guys. So as you start to see those deteriorate, you want to address that before it becomes a problem. And it's real easy to just slice those hinges and replace them either with CA hinges or the nylon hinge pins. Now, one last thing that I wanted to address is during the flight, you know, we had to interrupt our flight because the battery hatch was coming off. Now, with these Dynam models, some of the Dynam models, so amongst the ones that I have, the Focke-Wulf and this Waco, they don't have any kind of lip, you know, on the front of the battery hatch cover that kind of holds the, you know, one side, either the front or the back, into the model, and you can secure it with magnets on the other side. It's just got four, you know, metal plates here that are recessed a little bit into the foam, and it's got four opposing magnets on the other side, and there's a bit of a gap, about a couple of millimeters of gap there. So the magnetic attraction is not very strong between the magnets on the top cover and the bottom cover. What I ended up doing for the second flight is just putting some foam tack on either side. Now, one of the other things that you can do is either replace these magnets with some rare earth magnets and add some space there, you know, to reduce that gap from 1 millimeter down to either having the magnets touching, which is just going to give a much stronger bond to the magnets, but it's also going to mean that you're going to need to do some a better adhesive to hold that magnet in. Once you get the battery hatch secured, the airplane flies great. I didn't have any problems on the second flight, but it was kind of glued in place. But that's what I'm going to be doing, is adding some space in there to get these plates flush with the foam, and replacing the magnets in the back with some rare earth magnets, and using something like a paint stick or maybe some popsicle sticks on the front to create a lip where when I slide that in there, the front of the hatch cover is not going to lift because it's being held in with those sticks, and the rear is going to be held in secure with some much stronger magnets. Now, with regard to flight performance, this thing has really, you know, once you get used to how much rudder you need to fight the torque of the motor, which all tail draggers are going to have that. Once the tail starts flying and it gets up on the mains, it's going to want to, you know, twist over to the left just based on general flight mechanics, so we won't get into that here. And once you get used to how much rudder you need to apply, you can certainly achieve some really nice scale takeoffs with this airplane, and the landings are just as good. Now, because it's a biplane, you're going to have very light wing loading on this plane. I mean, you've got two wing surfaces that are getting air up under them, and it flies very light. Now, one of the things that I noticed as I was putting the model together, which it may or may not affect the flight, is At least in there's not a center spar. The lower wing is one piece coming out of the box. It comes in at one piece. Now it may have a spar embedded in it and I just didn't see it, but the upper wing assembly does not have a center spar. Again, it may have spars embedded in the wings to keep things stiff, but I didn't notice. I'm not going to tear the foam apart to see if there's a spar in there. But in this center section, there was no spar. It just glues together. Now, I didn't notice as I was flying. It didn't seem like the wings were flexing or anything like that. And that may be just due to the general construction of biplanes where you've got these struts on the center that hold it to the fuselage. You've also got the attachment points for the lower wing assembly where it bolts into the bottom of the fuselage, and you've got these outer struts as well. So it could be that with the combination of all of those support mechanisms that you don't need a center spar to keep the wing nice and stiff during flight. All right, so that about covers all the things about the airplane. Again, this is the Dynam Waco V2. This was provided for review by our good friends at BitGo Hobby. We've gotten to the part in the video where we're going to talk about the special offer from BitGo Hobby in partnership with the RC Air Marshal YouTube channel. Now, we've recently passed our 1-year anniversary with our live shows. We've passed our 2,000 subscriber milestone, and it's also the Christmas season. So if you're watching this before December 28th, between now and December 28th of 2020, BitGo has a very special coupon code. It's 10 off Air Marshal. That'll get you 10% off all Dynam planes, not just the Waco. It will get you 10% off all Dynam planes and all the parts for the Dynam planes at BitGo Hobby between now and December 28th. So that's awesome, and we really thank BitGo Hobby for being a continued supporter of the channel and offering that special offer to all of our viewers. So to take advantage of that offer, simply look in the description down below, click on my link for BitGo Hobby, and when you go to checkout, just type in the coupon code 10 off Air Marshal, and you'll get 10% off all Dynam airplanes and all parts for Dynam airplanes between now and December 28th, 2020. And when you use our BitGo link, it does offer a small commission back to the channel, and we certainly appreciate your support. Also in the description below, you'll find other ways of supporting the channel, like channel memberships, where for as low as $1.99 a month, you can support the RC Air Marshal YouTube channel, as well as our merch store, which, by the way, we've also got a coupon code for the merch store right now that gets you 30% off, and that is RCAM30 off. So use that coupon code on our merch store, and it's going to get you 30% off all of our merch between now and January 31st of 2021. So that wraps it up for this video. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification icon so you're always made aware when we have new videos on the channel. Also, be sure to join us every Monday at 8 p.m. for our RC Air Marshal live show right here on the RC Air Marshal YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.